All right, welcome back to the channel. So Terence Crawford has another potential suitor for his for the next time that he fights, and that would be a fight I'd like to see, and against a guy that I think really does deserve a break and could probably give Terence Crawford a good fight, a different type of fight, but a good fight, and that is the Ray Robinson, not Sugar Ray Robinson, but Ray Robinson, the guy that beat Terence Crawford in the amateurs. Let's talk about that fight. Could it be made? Is it something, is it a fight where, Terence Crawford could be challenged? Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Terence Bud Crawford, the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. My number two welterweight in the world, but a guy that is stuck in a very sticky situation in that he is promoted by Top Rank, who does not have any legitimate people in his weight class that fights for them. And he's in a weight class where all of the top welterweights, other than himself, are located with the PBC, Premier Boxing Champions. So there's a lot of talk about who Terence Crawford is going to fight because, even though I do have Terence Crawford as my top guy pound for pound in the sport of boxing, I have to admit that, his competition level has not been the highest. I can't really recall the last time I thought there was a chance that Terence Crawford was going to lose a fight or that he fought anybody that was remotely close to him skill wise. I think, for me, probably the closest thing to that. God, man, I like the fight with Felix. I like the fight with Felix Diaz before that happened. Even though I knew Bud was going to win, I do believe that Felix Diaz is a very solid fighter, was a very solid fighter. Maybe Victor Postal, but pretty much nobody, and definitely not since he's been at 147. And that is where, Bud has been getting a lot of criticism on both sides of the fence from people, who are God, man, how can I say this, man? So your mainstream media type of guys, for years, like I have Terence Crawford as my number one pound for pound fighter, but ESPN does not, right? I have Terence Crawford as easily the best guy over there at Top Rank, but Bob Arum does not. And one incident back in 2000, I think it was back in 2017, which is the year I do believe that was the year that Terence Crawford unified all four belts at 140 pounds with his win over Julius Ndungo, but yet failed to get the fighter of the year from the Boxing Writers of America. Right? Is it Boxing Writers of America? Yeah, I think it's Boxing Writers of America. Whatever it is, the group of the mainstream boxing writers who also have votes because they're a portion of that community. Also have votes. I do believe that they get like International Hall of Fame votes and crap like that because they're a member of the Boxing Writers of America. Regardless, the Boxing Writers of America did not give Terence Crawford the fighter of the year. They gave it to Vasily Lomachenko, despite the fact that Vasily Lomachenko didn't fight anybody in his own weight class that year, with the exception, I do believe, of Jason Sosa. But the other fights that he had that year were against Miguel Mariaga, who was moving up from 130 pounds, and Guillermo Rigondeaux, who was moving up from 122 pounds. But yet, they gave that award to Vasily Lomachenko over Terence Crawford. And the justification that they gave to Brian McIntyre was that, Terence Crawford really, the level of competition wasn't there for him. And they pointed out that Julius Ndungo, although he was a unified champion, right? Like he held two belts. It was the WBA. I think he might have held the WBA and the IBF, right? But regardless, they didn't think highly enough of Julius Ndungo. They didn't think highly enough of the other guys that he fought. That might have been Felix Diaz that year, right? Who was an Olympic gold medalist, but, not of the caliber of fighter that they thought was suitable for that award. So you hear it you hear a lot about who Terence Crawford, the lower level of competition from people on that side, on the main sides of the street, main stream media side of the street. But then on the fan side, because that's what I consider, like when people can refer to new media, refer to the LDBC, or refer to different groups of people that have that are out there in much smaller groups, right, than something that is as large maybe as the LDBC, but they are out there, with the same kind of conversation. Who is Bud fought? When are we going to see somebody? When are we going to see Bud fight somebody? So, that's where Bud is stuck. And now you have to say, well, who is he going to fight? Right? Is he going to fight Sean Porter? There's conversations going on back about that, but sometimes Bud wants to fight, sometimes Bud doesn't want that fight, but there's money issues related to that. Same thing, Bud wants the Manny Pacquiao fight next. However, there's money and restrictions. I mean, money and geographic restrictions, associated with that fight as well. But when you talk about somebody like Ray Robinson, right? Ray Robinson, I think, is a really good, could be not a really good fight, right? Like, I wouldn't say that it is my first choice for him. My first choice for Bud would be Sean Porter. Then after that, it would be, other than he would be able to get champions. Let me make sure I say this before somebody puts this in the comment section and gets me wrong. My first choice for Terence Crawford to fight somebody is Errol Spence Jr. I would love to see that fight. I'd love to see that fight next, but it's not going to happen next. After that, it would be Manny Pacquiao, because Manny Pacquiao has a WBA belt, and therefore, boom, we're one close fight closer to a fight for undisputed. Unfortunately, those fights aren't going to happen. So who's he going to fight? Who doesn't have a belt? Sean Porter's a great option. Keith Thurman's a great option. And Kell Brook is a good option. But all of those guys, there's problems with all of those. Kell Brook is in the UK. Keith Thurman is PBC, and you got the monetary issues. Sean Porter don't act like you want to fight Terence Crawford, and he's with the PBC, so you still have the same monetary issues. A guy like Ray Robinson, though, is somebody that beat Bud in the amateurs, so there's a history with him. He's also a very slick southpaw that is a tremendous fighter. Right now, he lost early in his career to some guys like Sean Porter, right? He lost to Sean Porter early in his career. And most recently, I think he got ripped off in a fight with Igis Kalvanakis. And if he would have been able to get the right decision, if the right decision was given in that fight between Igis Kalvanakis and Ray Robinson, then, because it was marked as a draw, but if Ray Robinson would have won that fight, then it would have been Ray Robinson who could have been, the mandatory, who could have been, more than likely wouldn't have been, because we're talking about the WBO, but he could have been somebody that would have been a mandatory for Terence Crawford. But again, he beat him 2 times. He beat Igis Kalvanakis. I think he also beat Josh Kelly, and in those situations, dude, most times, obviously not every time, where you have a guy like Ray Robinson who's not with the promoter, right? Who's a slick southpaw fighter, a style that a lot of people don't want to fight to begin with. When they put him in the ring and he gets a draw against a guy, who is the promoter's, one of the promoter's main guys, and he gets a draw against, a guy like Josh Kelly, who again is the promoter's favorite and the guy that the promoter is pushing, that guy did some really solid work in that fight in order to get it to a draw. In my book, those 2 draws, I know not in the real world, but in my book, those 2 draws for Ray Robinson are just as good as wins, and puts him in the position, just as good a position to fight Terence Crawford as any of the other guys that he has fought in 147 pounds, with the exception of Jeff Horn, who was the champion when Terence Crawford moved up. But even then, Jeff Horn was never all that, dude. He's not that good a fighter. He's not a top level welterweight. And that has been proven after, when he was beaten by Terence Crawford, easily beaten by Terence Crawford. And in the subsequent fights that he has had, it weights above 147 pounds. Dude's probably about to lose to Costa Zoo's son. But Ray Robinson, I would love to see the fight, man. I think this dude deserves a shot. And admittedly, I got a soft spot in my heart for Black American fighters, Black American slick southpaw fighters, because they're the ones that are going to get overlooked. They're going to get overlooked the first. The first guy to say, nah, we're not going to do that. Number one, the style's not exciting. It's boring. He's going to be slipping punches. It's going to be an awkward chess match. And, the fans don't want to see that. So let's let him in there with gloves off their knuckle, So let's make a mismatch fight and, whatever. You get the point, man. I want to see Ray Robinson have that opportunity. I think that he is as good as any of the other people that Terence Crawford has fought since he got to welterweight, and since the other top guys that we would rather have Terence Crawford fight or rather see Terence Crawford fight aren't available. Hey, man, why not? Let's make it happen. Anyway, that's my take on the situation between Terence Crawford and Ray Robinson. You let me know what you think in the comment section. Also, make sure to like the video, share the video. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. If you are subscribed, or make sure that you check the bell icon and select all for the, click the bell icon. And then after that, select get all notifications so that you make sure that you get notified of when we do our live streams and our videos. And thank you to everybody that supports on the Patreon and as a member of the channel and in the live streams. And with that, I'm out. Peace.